you know that coronavirus has pretty much changed the entire way that our world is working. Now, in Britain, we've been in lockdown since March, I think, and in the past few weeks, kind of seen a lifting of the restrictions. But Boris Johnson, our Prime Minister, came out last week and said that we are massively lifting restrictions from this Saturday, July 4th. So restaurants, pubs, hairdressers are going to be opened. I'm very happy about the hairdressers. My husband has not had a haircut since March. I kid you not. So I'm very excited. But when we're seeing lots of people going to Bournemouth Beach, when we're seeing the Brixton block parties, the Notting Hill block parties, I'm really wondering, do you think that the public can be trusted to keep the social distancing expectations, or do you really think we're heading for a second wave of infections? I don't know. What do you think, Anissa?
Do I think the public can be trusted? Absolutely not. I'm saying it's that simple. I absolutely do not think they can be trusted because we shouldn't have been trusted in the beginning. You know, it's kind of how we got into the whole lockdown mess. I just think we cannot be trusted, and I think that has been illustrated in, as you've said, the Brixton block parties, the Notting Hill block parties. But not only just that, like, of course, we've all seen what's happened last week when the weather was lovely and it was booming. Everyone was out on the beach and there was no social distancing in sight. Like, everybody was just like around each other, spreading germs. And I think we're going to start to see the ripple effect of social distancing, not like now that people are laxing on it. I think we're going to start to see the ripple effect, because I don't know if you guys have seen, but they're now considering putting Leicester in a local lockdown because the rates have spiked back up in Leicester. So now they're thinking about just locking down Leicester again. And this is all because people have, well, one report said this, and I don't know how true it is, but they said it's because people were crowding around outside of takeaway shops. No, I don't know.
That's offensive to people in Leicester. I just want to say that. They're not the only place that has takeaways.
Honestly, so I thought that was a bit, to bring it back down to that point, I was like, wow, like what goes on in the takeaways in Leicester? But anyway, I think, so we've seen that in Leicester already, they're going to have to go back into lockdown, just them, because they haven't social distanced well. So that illustrates my point of just saying, I don't think we can be trusted.
I think that's what my issue is with what Boris Johnson's been saying in terms of some cities are going to be locked down. Because how do you lock down a city? Are you going to say that all the shops will be closed and people can't leave Leicester? Or people can't go into Leicester? Or my shops in Leicester will be closed, but the shops in Birmingham are open so you can travel there? I'm like, how? You can't even envision. Like, the government regulations have been so vague. I don't understand. In America, it makes sense because a state is like a country. So if the state is locked down, it's going to be much easier to kind of stop crossing the border and things like that. But this Leicester thing, the shops haven't even opened yet, and they already said there's a risk of infections. What do we think is going to happen when the rest of the country's opened up?
Here's the thing, right? I agree with both of you. Firstly, we never really went into lockdown to begin with. And not just thinking about everyday people, but our leaders. Was it Dominic Cummings who was driving up and down country, visiting someone and visiting that person? Do you know what I mean? Like, no one did lockdown properly. And the fact that we're saying that lockdown is lifted, right? That in itself is just a funny sentence, because nobody locked down to begin with. The only thing that really happened was that shops closed down, but people were going about their everyday business. People were still meeting up. People were going out, and linking this person and that person and just paying that fine. People were still going about their business. The only thing I think that could happen with the Leicester lockdown is what they did in New Zealand and Australia. So they had police actually at state borders, which prevented people from coming in and coming out.
How can they do that? I think that's going to be impossible to do. Like, you're going to stand at every motorway exit for Leicester and be like,
they're serious.
They don't have that many exits. Leicester's small, isn't it?
It's isn't it? I don't know. But they're going to have to, and they may have a tick list of who is, doing deliveries that can be there, and any wanderers get turned back. That's the only thing they can try and do.
What do you guys think of the 1 meter rule? Because, it is the 2 meter rule, but I know that hotels and pubs came out and said, with the 2 meter rule, we can only have capacity at 30%.
Oh my
If
God.
you change it to 1 meter, then we can have 70% capacity. So now they're bringing in, you can only be 1 meter apart if you can. But I saw an article in the BBC News and it was saying that by taking it down to 1 meter, it's actually increasing the rate of infection by 2 to 10 times. So for me, I'm just like, okay, how is this going to work? Like, do we really think that people are going to be in pubs and they're going to have a couple of drinks and then they're going to stay distance from each other? Like, what do you guys think about that?
That part. I agree with Anissa when she said I definitely don't trust the public to do anything.
Not anything.
I'm the same way. I really don't. And I mean, like, I was out the other day and my personal space got invaded by 2 men in the space of in a time span of 20 minutes, 2 of them, guys. And here's me thinking that, I can finally walk around and be female at the same time. And people are going to finally respect the distance. But it doesn't happen. So my naivety was shattered when I realized that individuals are individuals and individuals are going to do what they want to do. Like Linda said, I personally did lockdown, but one of my friends called me Luanda, what have you been doing? You've just been at home. And I'm like, yeah, that's what we're supposed to be doing. And then she's like, I've been to 15 house parties, girl. What are you doing? I was like, okay. And I think you see it, with what happened in Brixton the other day as well, just to give some context to that for anyone that doesn't know, there was a large gathering of people and a lot of loud music. It was actually labeled as an unlicensed music event. And then the police came obviously to try and enforce social distancing measures. And there was a massive clash between the people of Brixton and the police. And I don't know if you guys saw these videos, yeah? But some people whipped out swords. I saw a man whip out a sword. He did samurai warrior moves on the police. I was so confused. You just had that in your house? Someone said, do you want to hit up the function? I was like, yeah, I'm just grab my sword to bring it. That confused me. But I think also, in terms of the clash that happened in Brixton, there was a leaflet advertising a Black Lives Matter musical protest. And I think that's being connected to the riots when I personally don't think that they are connected, just because the musical protest was really peaceful. People were there was one microphone, people were reciting poetry, people came with flowers in their afros, and people social distance, and it ended at 7 p.m. But I think that people are very comfortable with associating the Black Lives Matter movement with destruction. So as soon as they saw that leaflet of an event that was happening on the same day, even though it was hours before the riots happened, people were like, oh yeah, look at those people, that's what they're doing, that's what's going on. Although, having said that, I do believe that the clash between the people of Brixton and the police, I understand that people are frustrated with the lockdown measures, but I think it was way deeper than that. I don't think people were throwing bricks at police cars because of, the restrictions that are placed upon us right now. And, Brixton has a long history of rioting. And I think that, I can't remember who it was that said that a riot is the language of the unheard. So I think that we should kind of be focusing on what they're trying to say.
Good thing. Sure. Okay, so I agree. For me, the way that they interacted with the police, for me, I think it was unforgivable. I can understand, but mashing up cars, doing things like that, I don't know if I can really say those people were trying to make some sort of protest movement. I don't think it was. I think that people were having a good time. Maybe people were drinking, things got carried away. But in terms of the racial aspects, I was just very glad that there were a lot of white British people at Bournemouth because I'm just at least we're not going to be getting blamed for the coronavirus and the protest, because Bournemouth Beach was a madness. Honestly, I was just this is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I think I understand why the economy's trying to be opened up, because a lot of money has been lost. My sister-in-law to be, she's supposed to get married in September. We don't know if that's going to happen. So for some people, it is benefiting them opening the world up. There's small business, there's people who do need to open up. So from that aspect, I can see why for a lot of people, this is actually a good thing. But I think the health risks are still there.
Same. I agree. And even just following on from what Luanda said, I think it's really just going to come down to the individual and how responsible they want to be for everybody else.
Yep.
Because, like in America, whatever, they were saying that all the Black Lives Matters protests was going to create a spike or whatever back in the coronavirus rates. And then they did a study, I guess now, I think it was last week, I can't remember who did it. And they found that there wasn't an increase in a rate of coronavirus from the protests. So it was showing that people were socially distancing responsibly and there wasn't a spread. And of course that was in the US. So I'm hoping what mimicked in the UK is, even though people have been in large group settings, if they individually wanted to be responsible for themselves, then they would have socially distanced and we won't see a spike. I mean, I can't talk about the people at Bournemouth Beach because I don't know what they were doing. But the thing about the protests, I'm really hoping that they were being responsible and socially conscious all at the same time, and that we won't see. Because I want to have faith in people. I want to say, like, yeah, we can trust them, but I know the harsh reality, so it puts me on the line of we can't trust them, but I still want to believe in them. That's
do you know what I think the issue is? There are still people out there that don't think coronavirus is real. Yes. There are still people that think that it's some kind of ploy and some kind of... I personally, at the end of March, I had symptoms that I'm pretty certain were COVID-19. I'm pretty certain Rona came and stepped to me. I lost my sense of smell. She did. Rona came to me to pay me a visit, an unwanted visit, yeah? I lost my sense. I didn't clock that I'd lost my sense of smell until my sister had texted me telling me that she had lost her sense of smell. And I'm sitting there with my boyfriend, and I'm like, hold on, can I smell anything? So I went to his bathroom, sprayed like his aftershave in my hand. I'm like, I can't smell. So that's when I clocked. Okay, cool. And that whole sinus situation. But thankfully, it wasn't. I could breathe, and it went within a couple of weeks and whatnot. But I think that is part of the problem. People don't believe coronavirus is real, so they're like, "Why am I gonna social distance? And why am I gonna social distance? It's just the government trying to take away my liberties." Yeah. I think all this stuff in terms of social distancing and staying alert and preventing the spread of this disease, which is real, because I have spoken to countless of people who work in the NHS, and some of the things they've seen is just horrific. I think it starts with us as individuals. And now when I go out, listen, I got a couple of masks in African print. So I'll be doing COVID-19, making it African fashion, you know. You know what I mean? I think it starts with the individual. And I'm, urging my friends. Like my boyfriend the other day, he told me he went to the park to meet some friends. I said, how did you get to that park? He said, public transport. I said, then we're going to have to talk because you need to be driving everywhere straight, period. Do you know what I mean? So I think, obviously, not everyone drives. I'm not saying people need to go now and get a car. But I just think there's little things that we can do individually to, prevent the spread.
Yeah. I actually think that a second wave is slightly inevitable as well for a couple of reasons. Well, if we have been socially distancing, we haven't been exposing our body to as many germs as it is used to. If you are only exposing yourself to the germs that are in your house and maybe you walk to the park and back, you know what I mean? So then I think it might be a little bit of a shock to the system when we go back to normal. But also, come winter time, our immune systems are lower anyway. People are always talking about colds and this and that in winter, but it's just but we have colds in summer. It's just not as big, because our immune systems are better. So I think that being in winter, having our immune systems lowered, and then COVID kind of making its way around it again, will be more susceptible to the virus. So I do think, and especially that having happened after the shock of going back to normal, all of those things are going to play a factor in the second wave. And I do think it will happen. I think it will happen around January, and I hope that I'm wrong.
You're optimistic. You're optimistic. I think that thing is coming way sooner than January. Honestly, I think we're going to be opened up for a couple of months, but then it's going to come back towards December time. And it's not just our immune systems being lower. It's people who are already vulnerable. The older already vulnerable in winter. They're already vulnerable to getting the flu. Then you're going to add this on. And I think my biggest issue with the lifting of the restrictions and Boris Johnson is that they haven't been clear on the fact that coronavirus isn't over. The lifting of the restrictions, the cancelling of Prime Minister's minutes every day makes it seem like, oh, it's over. Oh, it's all done with. Oh, you can be a meter closer. You can go to the pub. You can do this. You can do that. It makes people not realize we are still in the middle of a pandemic. And I know he's been under intense pressure from the Conservatives and a lot of people, but it really seems like life has been graded a lot cheaper than money. Because I'm like, people are going to die, but you want to get money in. Your first priority is to make sure people are safe, and that's not what's going on in my opinion.
You need to say that again. She said life is graded, cheaper than money. Damn.
It has been. The thing is, there's actually a point that Luanda made that I want to expand upon.
Yeah.
You mentioned that when you were out and about, you had your personal space invaded twice by men. Now,